Welcome to Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay, a shot of true serum for your investment and insurance questions. I am Josh Knoll, the owner of Gulf Coast Financial Advisors, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Jay Stubbs, Regional Director for First Protective. We are brought to you on the Prime Capital Investment Advisors Podcast Network. So, Jay, our podcast usually is we talk about money, investments, insurance. Things have changed a little bit.
You think?
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that.
I've said that so many times today. You think things are different?
Right.
Our world is obliterated in some world.
In some ways, yeah. We normally don't timestamp our episodes, but we are on this one. This episode is being recorded on March 24th, 2020, and the world is dealing with a stock market with heavy volatility, with a virus scare that's a little bit unique compared to what we've dealt with in the past. So in recognition of this reality, Jay and I decided to put together a series of episodes featuring local business owners that we think will provide you, the listener, some practical advice for navigating your business or occupation during this crisis, especially as it relates to leveraging technology and online platforms to hopefully establish your brand or grow your brand or save your brand. Our guest for this episode is Bradley Flowers. Bradley is the founder of Portal Insurance, and he is also the co-host of a very popular podcast called the Insurance Guys Podcast. Bradley was an early mover in utilizing technology and social media to build his personal brand in the P&C insurance world, which is an amazing sentence to say out loud. And I think he's got some really valuable tips for y'all to listen to. But before we get into all that, let's have our friends from Sloth Racer kick us off. Jay, Bradley, how y'all doing?
Pretty good, Josh. Good to be here with you, and early mover Bradley Flowers.
Thanks, guys. I'm super happy to be here.
Yeah, he's an early mover. I don't think he's an early riser.
I am an early riser.
Are you?
I am, yeah.
He's busy household man.
That's right.
I know that.
Yeah.
Well, quick housekeeping for compliance before we dive into Bradley. Jay Stubbs and First Protective are not affiliated with Prime Capital Investment Advisors or with Gulf Coast Financial Advisors. And Josh Knoll, me, is not affiliated with First Protective. And I guess we'll say Bradley Flowers is a P&C agent. He's not affiliated with any of this.
He's affiliated with himself and
There's
his
so
clients.
many directions I want to go with that.
Right. All right. So, Bradley, for the listeners that are not familiar with you or with Portal Insurance or your podcast, let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a Reader's Digest version. I worked for a captive company for 5.5 years, starting in 2013. I'd been in the business since 2008, and really, I had no money to build a brand. I could not advertise. I couldn't do radio, billboards, TV. So I kind of looked for areas that my competition was not doing that I could maybe out-strategize. And fortunately for me, that was social media. So I jumped headfirst into social media October of 2014. And took about a good year before it started clicking, but I just kind of knew that if I stuck to it, eventually eyeballs were going to be there. One thing led to the other from there, got a little bit of attention around the country, started generating about 98% of our business at that captive agency, new business from social media. In 2017, I'm fast forwarding to a lot, but in 2017, a buddy of mine reached out to me and was like, hey man, I want to start a podcast. And that was kind of the one area that I had not checked that box. That was one of the things I had not done. And so I was like, okay, cool. Let's try that. You're going to pay for it. And so I realized really quick that it was something that definitely I wanted skin in the game on. So we started the Insurance Guys Podcast, which was nothing more than a selfish endeavor to interview people we wanted to get connected with. And I think there's no better way to get connected with someone you want to be, whose circle you want to be in, and say, hey, come on my podcast. And
It's very flattering.
It is. Well,
And it's
so
fun.
Not to fast forward to a bunch, we're doing a local podcast now where we're interviewing people that we want to insure. And one of business-wise, commercial insurance, and one of my employees this morning said, hey man, I want to quote this company. What's the best way to reach out to the owner? I say, you reach out and say, my boss has this podcast, you want to come on? And he typed it out and he said, YouTube show. I said, no. Don't say YouTube show, say podcast. It's got this aura about it. But anyway, so we started the podcast interviewing people like Tom Hegna, who's very big in the financial services space, as I'm sure a lot of your listeners know, people like that. And then that sort of evolved to it really taking off. And from there, I essentially got an MBA for 1.5 years on how to run an independent property and casualty agency. So I used my knowledge from the podcast, and in January or March of 2019, I opened Portal Insurance, and our singular goal is customer centricity. We're going to make it as easy as possible for people to do business with us, and kind of where we are today.
Portal Insurance, located in Saraland, Alabama.
That's right.
That's
I'm
his
giving
radio voice.
I'm giving Scott a run for
Saraland.
Saraland.
Yeah.
But you're in a North of Mobile County market, and it's one that you said I can't compete with some of the, for lack of a better term, the well-established multiple generation property and casualty firms, all very good at what they do with multiple staffs and CSRs. And you also said I can't go out there and do the big advertising dollars that some of the larger insurance companies can do that we hear on the radio and that sponsor Sugar Bowls and things like that. So you had to find your niche and figure out where it was going to go from a dollars and cents perspective and make an impact. So kudos to you on being what Josh and I call an early mover in using all of this opportunistic time frame to do the podcast and establish your brand.
And I was with social media and building your own brand, it's like a speedboat compared to a cruise ship. Allstate and Geico and Travelers and Progressive and Farmers, they're all a cruise ship. For them to react to what's going on in the world, it's like turning a cruise ship around. It takes a while. But for us, we're a speedboat, and when you're building your own brand, you're like a speedboat, and you can flip a script, and something could start trending today, and we're able to pivot and put a piece of content out around that and gain so much more leverage faster compared to a Geico who's going to take a couple of weeks and have to go through compliance and things like that. So that's really what building my brand did, was it gave me control of the narrative. It's a beautiful thing about a podcast. It's, if this was a radio show on iHeartRadio, no disrespect to those guys, but there's going to be a producer at the end of this who's going to listen to this and tell you guys what to put out. With a podcast,
right,
you've got Johnny, and it's still you're the final say so.
Yeah, that's our show.
So, anyway.
Well, I have a question for you, because Jay and I, we, as you know, you were there for the beginning of the journey when, I went independent and I left the mothership for advertising and marketing. I had to figure it out on my own. And what I had hoped over the last couple of years or before then was to find people in my industry that I could kind of model after, and there really wasn't, other than the big brand names. So I reached out to Jay pretty early and said, hey, I got to really start generating my own marketing. Will you help me out on that? And that naturally led us to you, because you were already out there doing it. Jay and I, we don't get this statement very much anymore, but I'll paraphrase, and I don't mean to pick on anybody in particular because I've heard this statement multiple times, but, no one buys on Facebook. Yeah. No one's going to, what's Snapface? That kind of thing. And I'm being a little
Instaface.
I'm being a little facetious, but what I learned, and I want to toss it to you on this, is I think you've got a great stance on how that actually works, because it took me a while to learn it myself. That's actually not that untrue of a statement, but it misses the point. So what do you say to that?
Well, everybody that's ever been in insurance knows the importance of top of mind. And what it allows you to do is be top of mind. By putting content out that you're not trying to sell anybody, you're trying to bring value. And by putting content out to the world, you're staying top of mind to your prospects. It's definitely a longer term sales cycle. It's a longer play, but it's kind of like,
it's much deeper.
Exactly. It's deeper, which means that once you build it up, it takes just as long for it to stop working. So you're building that brand. You can stop for a few months and still get the benefit from that. Versus paid ads, which we do too, but a paid ad, when I turn a paid ad off, the leads stop, and so it allows you to be top of mind with your clients. We write all kind of business from people that have just seen my content over the years, even when I was at the other company,
Well, what you've done is through your efforts, you've been able to establish some daily actions that you can control that would help you drive revenue. Ultimately, that's what you've done. And any business owner listening to this podcast, anybody that's in that decision-making capacity could look at this and say, how to compete in today's world, which our world is fluid and ever changing. We're going to hear lots of different stories that come out of this pandemic and epidemic that we're going through of how people have emerged as a superstar in their particular line of work. And it's a superstar in their own little market. that has developed relationships with people through connections on the social media platforms and driven revenue as a result of that. And that's not a very profound statement, but it's something that I have learned from you over the last couple of years, and I've witnessed Josh actually execute and other businesses execute.
Guys, right now, if you've been thinking about building your brand, and you've been holding off for whatever reason, okay? And what you've got to do is you've got to identify what that is. So for me, and I talk about this when I speak a lot, is I knew I needed to do video a year before I did video. But there were one or two agents that I cared about their opinion. Usually it's a peer, it's never a client. There were one or two other agents that I knew were going to make fun of me behind the scenes. And eventually I realized they're never going to buy insurance from me ever. Why do I care what their opinion, especially if this is something I need to do? And that day I recorded a video. And just today, I had a carrier rep with Progressive say, man, some of your competitors hate your guts. And I said two things to him. I said, you know what? I said, they're never going to buy insurance from me, so I don't care. And let me pull up my podcast numbers and show Mobile, Alabama, because they all listen to it.
Right.
And they're not listening to it that much because they're trying to look for something to tear you down. They're looking because it's good information, right? But so there has never been a better time than right now for you to identify those one or two things that are keeping you from building your brand and jumping off the ship. And here's why. Everybody's contracting. Everybody that's spending money on advertising in the marketplace right now is pulling back. People are working from home. Businesses are closing. And guess what? If your competitor is here in terms of the altitude they have in your prospect's mind, and you're right here, you increase your spending, they decrease your spending, guess what? You've just made it an even playing field.
Right. Yeah.
There has literally never been a better time than to go all in right now, tastefully.
Right.
Don't be a jerkwad.
That's right.
But tastefully start building your brand. And what I would do is I would start putting out content around this virus, around, hey guys, here's what you need to do to protect yourself. Hey guys, I saw this video where Dr. Oz was on, I think he was on one of the late night shows, Jimmy Kimmel, and he showed how to wash your hands like a surgeon. And if you did that, he said you would decrease the chances of getting the virus by 50%. Don't share Dr. Oz's video. Make your own version of that video and say, hey, I was watching a video with Dr. Oz and this is what he said to do. Don't even mention your product. That's valuable to the marketplace right now, to your audience. So, hey guys, if you know somebody that needs food, this place right here is doing it. Do those kind of things. Go spotlight businesses in your town that are still doing the drive-through, food or delivery or things like that. So, literally, now's the time I would do that, because you will come out of the other side of this as a saint in your community as a business person.
If you're authentic and you're really someone that is there to help.
You've got it. Here's the thing. It comes back to intent. And I know I'm taking this completely off the rails, but
no.
It all goes back to the intent though. Is you're doing it to build the brand, but you don't go sleazy with it.
Right.
Like your intent's got to be, hey, I'm trying to put this out to help you guys. Here's this, here's that. Not, hey, I'm doing this and come see us at Joe Smith Financial Advisor. Don't do that.
Well, you know as well as anything, and Jay knows this too, is, a lot of times we'll speak to groups and somebody will come up to you and say, well, I put together just the most perfect post and I spent all this time and money on it and I put it out there and nothing happened.
Yep.
And I said, well, what was the point of the post? Well, to sell something.
Exactly.
I said, you got the wrong approach.
Well, not only that, I mean, you're chopping down a tree with a hatchet. You're not using a chainsaw. It's the consistency. I would rather, and this is like people like to make fun of, or people that are kind of in the marketing space like to say that Gary Vaynerchuk is wrong when he says you need to be posting 300 times a day across all the platforms. Obviously, nobody can do that. But I would rather you have 50 posts over a 2-week span that were average than spend 2 weeks trying to craft the perfect post.
Right. Because
those 50 posts are going to go way further from a consistency standpoint than one. Everybody tries to go viral. Like there's no such, like nobody that went viral hasn't spent years honing that skill.
Right.
It's like
we haven't figured it out
like
yet.
somebody, I mean, dude, I had a post, I was just showing Johnny out there that I posted at Mardi Gras that reached 133,000 people. I spent no money money behind it. You know how much business I got from that? I got nothing. Right. But I've gotten way more from the posts that have reached 30 people because I'm consistently doing it. And I think that, you know, like somebody told me one time, it's like, Bradley Flowers, like, you came out of nowhere in the insurance space. I'm like, no, that didn't happen. Like, you just didn't see 2013 to 2018 where nobody was watching me but my mom.
Took you 5 years to be an overnight sensation.
Sorry for the rant. But.
Well, you were spot on, and I've said this in the earlier podcast that we recorded today, but we our normal life as we know it is obliterated for this time being. We're going to see a lot of changes coming through, and it's clear we're going to be living like this for a while, so we might as well get good at it. And the point I'd like to make is, if you put, let's just pick, you know, ABC agency out there, and they said, hey, we're going to have an online webinar about managing all your risk coverages, and that ABC agency hasn't ever done anything online ever, versus Portal Insurance and Bradley Flowers saying, hey, I'm going to have a online event. You're going to capture 10, 15, probably 100 times the audience than somebody trying to do it their first time. Kudos to them for trying to do it their first time.
Yeah.
But you have established yourself now. If you wanted to have an online event, your audience is going to be huge.
Man, you know, I'm going to have to be very careful how I word this, but people need to innovate in their businesses. They don't need to wait until they're forced to innovate. And that's what's happening right now.
That's right.
Yep.
Businesses that have never used Zoom for a video proposal or Loom or whatever you use are now having to figure it out. And they're freaking out. I'm seeing posts from insurance agents in groups saying, what's the name of that program that lets my customers sign through email? Right. If you have not implemented DocuSign right now, yes, a lot of, and it sucks that this is happening, but use this as a wake-up call to, not only do I need to do this stuff in my business now, I need to continue to do this and look for opportunities. We did a live stream earlier this week. Look for opportunities. Hey, such and such went to work from home and she was 8 times more productive. Let's let her work from home. You know, or maybe we altered our hours and it worked, or maybe we did video proposals, or, you know, we've done our last 2 sales meetings in my office on Zoom, even though we had 3 people in the office. We had 3 at home, 3 at the office, but we still might do them that way because I like that I can record it and it's not weird that I'm recording the meeting, you know? So look for opportunities, and guys, that, you know, if you're watching this a year from now, 2 years from now, don't wait till the next recession to innovate in your business. Do it now, because you're preparing for when that happens. From a technology standpoint, we have not missed a beat. Right. We do all this stuff all the time. I was saying before we came in here, and this is not patting myself on the back, we're having our second biggest month ever in terms of revenue and new business production. And it's because the only change we're having to make is we got people working from home. Everything else is the same.
That's right.
So,
yeah, you've already implemented the technology. No, that was great, because I think it's a time for people to use their imagination. And honestly, Bradley, you were one of the ones that were best at pushing me forward. Was, you know, don't worry if you got your best suit on. Don't worry if you've got your hair perfect. Don't put any makeup on. You know, like maybe Jay does sometimes.
Oh, come on, stab me in the back.
But I mean, don't try to make it perfect. Just do it.
It'll be better if you don't try to make it perfect.
The ones that we get the most response are when Jay and I are just being real.
The real Josh Knoll and the real Jay Stubbs and the real Bradley Flowers coming to you here on these real podcasts.
Right. And I'm not saying that my business is perfect. We have a lot of issues, but one of the issues we don't have is how to use technology.
Yeah, staying in contact with your customers and your potential customers.
I can sit here and talk for quadruple this time on stuff we're doing wrong. So
you do an hour on your show.
We do an hour. I'm not used to this 15-minute stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, how do people get a hold of you?
So pretty much just Google Bradley Flowers. I'll come up. I'm not the former Clemson football player, Bradley Flowers, and I'm not the flower shop in Ocala, Florida. On Instagram, I'm at Bradley Flowers __. That is the easiest place to get in touch with me, or Facebook. And then my email is bradley@getportalinsurance.com. My website is getportalinsurance.com.
Well, on that note, there's a guy named Josh Knoll that's a drummer in a heavy metal death metal band out of Mississippi. I'm not him.
No way.
Yeah.
Well, I want to go. Next time we go to Disney World, I'm going to stop by the flower shop in Ocala. It's literally Bradley Flowers.
That's awesome.
And I'm going to take a picture under the sign. So
I got you both beat. There's a rapper on the west coast of California named Jay Stubbs.
Lil Stubbs. Lil Stubbs.
That really is Jay. He's that's his alter ego. Side hustle.
Oh my
God. All right. Well, listeners, if you haven't picked up on it yet, yet, you are now. We're here to help. We are here to help, and we're here to attack this crisis. You can reach us and reach our show by calling or texting 251-327-2124. Plus, you can visit gulfcoastfa.com to catch this episode and all our other episodes. If you want to learn more about guests with Bradley Flowers of Portal Insurance and Insurance Guys podcast, just exactly like he said, just Google any of those things. You're going to have about 20 results, and you can start pulling the thread there. And then lastly, to all you independent and semi-independent advisors and agents out there listening and interested in the value that Jay Stubbs can bring to your practice, you can find him at jstubbs.com. That's JAYSTUBBS.com. So fellas, show in the can. That's quick. That's about the fourth time of the Insurance Guys podcast.
Well, thank you, Bradley, for making this happen.
No, hey, you did great, man. Jay and I really appreciate it. We respect all the help you've given us. This is kind of, you said something earlier in the show about having people on that you really respect and want to say thank you to. Well, that's exactly what this is.
Man. I respect you guys so much, and about like 100x value your friendship. So
yeah, same here, buddy.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. I want to thank our producer, Johnny Gwynn of Deep Fried Studios. Thank my co-host, Jay Stubbs. And then, as always, a huge shout out to you all that have been joining us on this journey and to those of you that are joining us now. This has been Every Dollar Counts with Josh and Jay. Advisory services offered through Prime Capital Investment Advisors, LLC, PCIA, a federally registered investment advisor. PCIA, doing business as Prime Capital Wealth Management, PCWM, and Qualified Plan Advisors, QPA. Gulf Coast Financial Advisors is independent of Prime Capital Advisors. Information presented for educational purposes only, is not an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any securities. All investments involve risk, and unless otherwise stated, be sure to consult a tax professional before implementing any tax or investment strategies.